In the spring of 2021, a man started looking for someone who had been missing from the internet for 10 years. He wasn't a detective and there was no crime to solve. He was a Minecraft YouTuber, and the man he was hunting had done nothing except tell one lie on a live stream in 2010 and then walk away from it. The trouble was that the lie hadn't gone anywhere. It had grown into something with its own mods, its own summoning rituals, its own nickname, and its own place in the memory of a generation of players who were never quite sure whether they believed it. And the recording of the night it was born had been erased from the internet completely, deleted from the only server that ever held it. This is the story of what was on that video, what it took to get it back, and the one piece of it nobody has ever found. To understand how this worked, you have to understand what Minecraft looked like in August 2010, because it was nothing like the game you know. This was alpha, the world loaded inside a heavy grey fog that swallowed everything past about 30 blocks, so the horizon was a permanent wall of haze that could have been hiding anything. The game crashed constantly, terrain generated in broken ways nobody could explain, and nobody really knew what was supposed to be in there because the game was being built while they played it. Hold on to that fog. None of what follows works without it. On the 31st of August, somebody posted a story to 4chan. Anonymous, no username, nothing traceable. He wrote that he had been playing alone when he saw something standing in the distance, which shouldn't have been possible in a single player world. The figure looked exactly like the default character, except the eyes were completely white with no pupils. When he walked toward it, it moved away, watching him without ever letting him close the gap. And then his world started changing on its own. Sand pyramids out in the ocean where nobody had built anything. Long 2x2 tunnels underground. Trees stripped of every leaf. So he tried to tell people. He posted a thread on Minecraft forum and it was deleted. So he posted again and that one was deleted too. Then a private message arrived from an account he'd never seen. The username was Herobrine. The message was one word, telling him to stop. He kept pulling at it. Other users told him the name belonged to a Swedish player, and eventually that the player was related to Notch, the man who made the game. So he emailed Notch and asked outright whether he had a brother. The reply he claimed was short. Yes, he had one, but he was no longer with us. That's the whole story. That's the post that started all of this. And here's the part that gets skipped in almost every Herobrine video ever made. Almost nobody read it. It should have sunk without a trace the way 10,000 other invented ghost stories sank that year on a site that deletes itself every few hours. We still don't know who wrote it. No archive of the original thread survives. And in 16 years, the author has never come forward. The man who invented one of gaming's most recognizable characters did it anonymously and never told anybody it was him. A few days later, somebody else read the post, and this is where the story turns. His name was Copeland. He had broken off from another channel with a friend to start their own stream called BroCraft, mostly Minecraft, small regular audience. It is worth sitting with what live streaming meant in 2010 because it wasn't an industry yet. Twitch didn't exist. You streamed at a resolution that made the game look like it was underwater. Through a microphone picking up your own computer fan to a chat of maybe 20 people who all knew each other's names. Nothing was recorded unless the host decided to keep it because nobody imagined anything happening on these streams would even matter. Copeland found the creepypasta and liked it. That was all it was at first, so the next day he took a screenshot of his own world, opened Photoshop and put Herobrine into it. Not for a video, not as part of a plan, just to see what his chat would do. They lost their minds. That reaction is the real origin point of everything that follows, far more than the 4chan post ever was. The post was a story a handful of people read and forgot. This was a room full of people reacting in real time, and Copeland wanted more of it. So he put Herobrine onto a painting texture and in-game painting, the kind you hang on a wall. He modified the file so no painting in his texture pack would render as white-eyed figure standing perfectly still against the wood. Then he hung it in an unfinished room in his house, went live and waited. Here's what makes it work. And it's the detail every retelling underplays. For the first 20 minutes, nothing happens. He just plays, building a wooden house on a mountainside, talking to the 20 or so people watching. He's using a texture pack called BroCraft that gives everything a softer, almost storybook quality, which somehow makes what comes later worse rather than better. The audio is thin and distorted, and you can hear the room he's sitting in, and the whole time he's quietly working the story, mentioning the ghost from his screenshots, calling it him, keeping it alive in the back of his chat's mind while he pretends to build a normal house. He's steering the room without anyone noticing. There are no music cues, because it's live and there's nothing to score. No editing, no build-up, no lingering shot of a doorway, because none of those things can exist in real time. Nothing signals that anything is about to happen. It is, for a while, just a guy playing Minecraft badly on an ordinary evening, and then he walks into the room. About 20 minutes in, he wanders into an unfinished room, and the house a room he jokingly named the Love Shack. And it's standing there against the far wall, facing him, white-eyed and completely still. He panics, and whether that panic is real or performed stops mattering, because it's convincing either way. He spins and runs, checking behind him as he goes, and the chat is going insane. And then he quits the game entirely and ends the stream. That's the whole event. That's the video that built Herobrine. A few hours later, Copeland went live again, and this second stream is the part I keep coming back to, because it's a genuinely clever piece of misdirection almost nobody talks about. He went back into the house slowly, performing the nervousness you'd expect from someone who thought something was waiting for him. And when he got into the room, it was empty, because he had taken the painting down and restored the original textures beforehand. So his audience watched him find it once, and watched him go back and find nothing, which is far more convincing than finding it twice, because a hoaxer would have wanted the second sighting. A frightened person would have wanted an empty room. Then he announced he was deleting the world because he never wanted to run into it again, and deleted it in front of everybody watching, except that he didn't. He kept the file and kept it for the next 14 years, and that decision is the only reason this story has an ending. Not long afterwards, another BroCraft streamer staged a sighting of his own, and he didn't tell Copeland he was going to do it. His name was Patamus, and his version gave the game away to anyone paying attention. His Herobrine was standing out in the open in a lava field, freestanding rather than flat against the wall, which meant he couldn't have used a painting. He retextured a door instead. He ran, saved his game, cut the stream, and came back online 10 minutes later, after someone in the chat dared him to check whether it was still there. And then, during the second stream, his wife walked into the room and asked him what he was doing. Patamus told her the truth, out loud on air, with the stream running, and he said he was trolling everybody. His chat erupted, and he faked a game crash to cover it, and carried on playing. Sit with that timeline. The myth was created and publicly confessed to on the same night, on the same platform, to an overlapping audience within about an hour, and it made no difference at all. Copeland was annoyed, and not for the reason you'd assume. He wasn't worried about being caught. He was annoyed with Patamus. In his own account, given years later, he says he had no idea Patamus was planning everything. was never asked and never told, and was disappointed it had been exposed that way. Which leaves you with two grown men who fell out over the handling of a ghost neither of them believed in. And Copeland didn't stop. He kept the act running for the better part of the year, until it became a running joke in his own chat and that his sighting was the genuine one and Padamus had faked his for attention. Both were fake and everyone knew, and they kept it going anyway, because the story was more entertaining than the truth. Around this time, Copeland also pointed his viewers at a page he had put up called him.html, showing Herobrine's face with real moving human eyes, alongside text telling whoever was reading it that they were living inside a fantasy in their own mind and needed to wake up. That page is where the character picked up his second name, him. After this, it stopped belonging to anyone. Herobrine became a genre, citing videos by the thousand, shots on shaky screen captures with red circles drawn around distant pixels, summoning rituals built out of gold blocks and netherrack by children who genuinely sat and waited. Dozens of community mods, which is its own strange kind of proof he was never in the game, so people put him in themselves. And when modders pulled the game files apart properly, they found nothing. No entity, no texture, not one line of code referencing him anywhere. It changed nothing. Notch eventually wrote on his own website that Herobrine wasn't real and asked people to stop asking. He had no dead brother and never had. And Mojang made what I still think is the funniest decision in the game's history. They started putting the line "removed Herobrine" into the official patch notes over and over across years of updates until it became a tradition. They even slipped it into the notes for a completely different game they were making, which is obviously a joke. It's also, technically, an official developer document repeatedly confirming they removed something. Try explaining the joke to an 11-year-old. And then Copeland left. Nothing dramatic. He stopped streaming, the username went quiet, and he walked off the internet without a goodbye. 10 years went by. At some point during those 10 years, the site hosting the BroCraft streams cleared out its old archive, and the recording went with it. Nobody had downloaded it, or if anybody had, they never said so, which left the community somewhere bizarre. Herobrine was everywhere. Merchandise, mods, books, 15 years of thumbnails, and every person who played the game knew his name, and the recording of the night he was created no longer existed anywhere on Earth. In 2021, a YouTuber called EnderBoss25 uploaded a short video about the lost stream and started trying to find it, assuming it would take a few weeks. The Wayback Machine had nothing, so he went directly to livestream.com. They came back with a condition that changed the whole nature of what he was doing. They couldn't release anything without permission from the original uploader. He wasn't looking for a video anymore. He was looking for a man who had been gone for a decade, with no channel, no public accounts, no reason to want to be found. That search took 8 months. What crack? It was a stream group Copeland made back in 2010, still sitting in an archive where nobody had thought to look, with his stream ID attached. Usernames change, stream IDs don't. So he followed the ID to an active account under a different name, and then he did the part no amount of research prepares you for, writing a cold message to a stranger who hadn't spoken about any of this in 10 years, and waiting to find out whether a man who deliberately vanished wanted to be found. Copeland replied. Copeland didn't have a copy himself, but he gave livestream.com permission to search their archive properly. It was empty. Whatever they'd once held had been cleared years earlier. 8 months of searching, a missing man tracked down through an 11-year-old stream ID, and the tape was gone anyway. Except Copeland had something nobody had considered. He still had the world. The world he technically deleted on stream in 2010, so he'd never have to see Herobrine again, had been sitting on his drive the whole time. So the two of them opened it together, and for the first time in over a decade, somebody other than Copeland walked up to that mountain and stood in that room. Enderboss25 said he was genuinely afraid Herobrine would jump out at him, and then, almost in the same breath, called it magical that after years of questions about this exact world, he was finally the one standing inside it. Then Copeland explained what he'd actually done, where the painting went, how he edited it, and what he did beforehand to make the stream feel ordinary. Every recreation before that had been guesswork. People had assumed a modded client or a hacked build or a retextured door. Entire theories were built around it. It was a painting on a wall. Enderboss25 rebuilt the sequence inside the original world, following Copeland's instructions, and Copeland confirmed it was accurate. Then he went quiet again. No contact since. He handed over the truth, signed off the recreation, and went back to being gone. In July 2024, another YouTuber, Blame It on George, published a documentary covering the whole saga, and somebody watched it who had the file. A user called BRUTALLILLFJOMP had a full copy and had one for years. In his own words, he had it sitting uploaded privately on his channel the whole time, thinking it was nothing special. He hadn't come forward because he had no idea it was lost, or that anybody was looking for it, which is a completely reasonable thing not to know. So he uploaded it. 14 years of it being considered unrecoverable, an 8-month search, a wiped company archive, a missing man tracked down through an abandoned stream group, and it had been on somebody's hard drive the whole time, waiting for someone to mention that it mattered. They had Petissimus's first stream too, but not the second one. Petissimus's second stream, the one where his wife walked in and said out loud that the whole thing was fake, has never been recovered. No copy, no clip, no archive anywhere. Whether he deleted it himself after being caught out has never been confirmed. So this is where the story sits today. The hoax survived because somebody held onto a copy of the lie for 14 years without realizing it was worth anything. The confession didn't. Somewhere out there is a man who posted an anonymous story in 2010 and has never told anybody it was him. Another who hung a painting on a wall for a laugh. A third who told the truth on a live stream and got shouted down for it by his own audience. And in a game that has never had a single line of code written for him, there's still a white-eyed figure standing out in the fog, being looked for right now by people who weren't born when any of this happened.